Hello, beautiful souls. This is Masami. I hope you're doing well and staying healthy. This is a video about the new moon that is coming up on July 17th in Cancer. But let's go back and revisit the last maybe 10 days to almost 2 weeks. So we kicked off July and the second half of the year with the super full moon in Capricorn, and it was called the buck moon. And I also called this buck moon the natural equalizer. So I went into it much more detail during the live call. So I will include that link below. So please check that out because it's still relevant for you prior to welcoming this new moon energy. And just as bucks do, did you consciously shed your old patterns and old belief system and maybe old behavior? I really recommend you take some time to do that right now. And also, did you look into your tendencies to define success based on maybe your income, the numbers, measurements of the numbers, possessions, images and appearances, and even like where you live and titles and legacies? Legacies, like leaving your legacy is such a big topic right now. But I think we can get too overly consumed by that kind of a notion. So, come back and check in with that. And I talked some about that during that call about the buck moon. So please do go back and listen to that. And also, did you also let go of untenable goals and ill-founded expectations of yourself and others? And I was reminded of this myself by gardening yesterday, and I saw a snake skin left behind. And, usually when you see a snake skin, you think of a symbolism of like a release and death, right? And that's true. There is that notion as well. And I felt my own inner skin being squeezed as if I was getting rid of maybe some of my old clothes, or clothes as in like costumes and things, the roles that we play on this earth, because life is a play. And what roles are you playing? And some of them needed to be shed. So reminded me of that by seeing the snake skin. And also at the same time, the symbolism of the rebirth and the transformation and the new beginnings that are coming right around the corner. And the snake skin was reminding me of to like let go, but prepare myself for this new that is coming. And it was really fitting for me, especially right now, since the super full moon in buck moon that we had, and getting ready for the new moon in Cancer that is coming around. Because I was just saying, hey, did you do enough of the shedding? Did you let go of enough? And I can honestly say that I hadn't let go enough. And there was some stuckness that I was feeling. And some of that was coming from like chasing perfection. And perfection can be such a stopper of your energy flow. It can literally hold you back from learning about your own potential and going for your true growth. So I was reminded of that to check back in. So if you didn't consciously shed your snake skin or antlers, so to speak, since the full moon, about 10 days to, maybe some of you will be listening to this on the new moon, so 2 weeks, this period of time would have been quite challenging for all of us, for you. And this period meaning dark moon period right before you welcome the new moon. So hopefully you can maybe stop and do some of that shedding for yourself so that this next period, this new beginning again, can bring in a little bit more of the freshness, more of the growth that you're looking for. And if you didn't take time to do that, some of these things you will feel, okay? Following would be like you'll feel quite intense emotions. You might get into arguments. You might feel like you're going to be physically be in pain. You might experience some things like constipation. You might feel lymphatic system stagnant. So those are all the things that's asking you, maybe telling you, okay, isn't it time for you to shed? So it's a great reminder. And on the side note, I wanted to revisit the importance of magnesium, and I've included the PDF below again. So please download that PDF and take a look at different forms of magnesiums that I'm recommending. because it's so necessary in the month of July to check back into what kind of magnesiums you're taking. When do you need to use this kind of magnesium, that kind of magnesium, and switch them around? And that's going to also help you to shed things, but to soften up some of your stances, okay, towards perfectionism and maybe holding on to your old patterns. Now let's get into the new moon in Cancer. And I hope you were able to attend the 777 Gateway and become clear on your desires and dreams. And if you haven't done that, please take a look at the short video that I created. Also, I'll put the link below. But it's a great timing to do that and revisit your dreams and desires before the new moon, because this new moon in Cancer is going to play a huge role in fulfilling these dreams and desires. And one thing we want to pay attention to during the new moon in Cancer is that we could get too sedentary and get stuck. This can lead to overly cautious behaviors and protective and even possessiveness of your own space. Seeking so much security can get you into a bit of a bind, and you can start to interact with the world through suspicious eyes too. So, others might see you in this period of time as dependable because maybe you're so cautious and maybe even somewhat stuck in the behavior. But this can become like a form of clinginess or just staying put too much and losing that nice flow that it's happening all throughout this month of July. So it's good to have healthy boundaries, but just like everything else in life, you want to maintain a natural flow. You don't want the boundaries to become too porous or too rigid. And if you no longer bring spontaneity and playfulness, you can get too sentimental and overly emotional. And that could be the shadow side really coming up during the new moon. And that's really no fun for anybody. And it can be exhausting to our whole system. So see if you could have a little less rigidity around your boundaries and bring back the playfulness and laughter. And this, just with any new moon, this new moon is also generally a regenerative energy time, right? Just like all the new moons. But if you haven't spent some time looking deeply into the old patterns and shedding your behaviors and beliefs that no longer serve you, and consciously set your focus based on your deep dreams and desires, it will be hard for you and your soul to really step forward and dive deeply into the experience of this physical life. So please go back to the beginning of this video where I really talk about the shedding and releasing, and take that time right now in the dark moon period before the new moon comes to do some of that work. So again, I recommend you go back 2 weeks and address what the buck moon was teaching us and asking us to do. And then you can welcome the new moon more easily, and it can be quite enjoyable. And because this new moon is actually, in fact, quite dynamic and powerful and transformational for your life, especially for the next 6 weeks or so, don't lose this opportunity to really shine your light by first giving some space to shed and release. So as long as you have fully participated in your life through reflections, shedding, releasing, and refocusing, you will enjoy the new beginning that is right around the corner for you. And like I said, July is an oscillating month, which I talked about in the live call that I did, which you will have the link below. It's this back and forth, kind of the swaying kind of a feeling. That's what you're going to be experiencing throughout July. Beware of worrying about that swaying, worrying about that movements and fluctuations. Try not to worry. And one of the things you can use is the magnesium, but also knowing that worrying can actually create the tamastic quality I talked about. That can be kind of too grounding, too sedentary, can feel very stuck and energetically like stuck in a mud kind of a feeling that can come back in. So make sure you are letting go of the worrying and go with this flow of letting go, releasing, and the rebirthing and welcoming the new beginning that is coming right around the corner. And one of the things that I think many of us will experience physically right around the dark moon period into the new moon and maybe a couple days after the new moon is that tired arms and easily fatiguing arms. And you may feel a little bit weakness in your grips and maybe even your arms. So if that's something that you're feeling, one thing that you want to do, not physically, but emotionally and psychically, is to say, okay, what am I still holding on to? Where am I gripping? And let go of that. And some of the reasons why we start to feel tiredness in the arms is the repetitive, maybe movements. You're straining yourself and that's injuring you. That could be, and it could be dealing with the nerve damage. One can be the compression of the neck and upper back that can cause the nerves to pinch also. So check in with your posture. Maybe you're spending too much time in front of the computer, or you're hunching forward and doing something. Even gardening can create that kind of a tired arms. So paying attention to that would be really good. But one thing about the tired arms can actually come from fatty acids not being balanced. And I'll do another video on this. So stay tuned to that. But when the omega-3s, saturated fats, and omega-6s are not balanced in your body, you can actually have issues of inflammatory joints. Nerves can get actually pinched from all that too. So, I will talk about this more later on, but start to pay attention to, am I eating too much of one kind of fats and not enough of the other kind? Start to look at your diet a little bit more closely. And the last thing I want to say about this new moon is this is a beautiful time to ask some exploratory questions of yourself. And first, maybe areas of the questions, the inquiry that you want to do is, do I respect myself? And do I trust myself? Because if you don't trust yourself, it's really hard to trust the world around you. And that's something that I really feel the buck moon to this new moon period is asking us to do. Do you trust yourself enough to shed the old patterns and allow the unknowing and the liminal space to come in so that you can maybe learn new ways of trusting yourself, but the world? And do you know yourself enough to let go? Those are some really good questions. And other things are, do you celebrate yourself for being you? Do you honor yourself for becoming who you are becoming now? Do you honor and cherish that process? So make some time, set aside some time to ask deep questions like that and make the commitment for yourself to get to know yourself better. Make the commitment to learn about yourself a little bit more. By doing that, I think you can begin to not only trust yourself, but trust the process, trust the timing of it all, and trust the world that it's holding you. It's got your back. All right. So that's what I have for this new moon that is coming up. Try not to get too serious. Try to have some playfulness, to leave some space for spontaneity. Don't look for perfections too much, and use this time period to shed further so that the rebirth can happen for you. And I look forward to being with you soon again. Happy new moon.